With a disappointing draw against Brighton, a lot of people have started to give up on Arsenal's season. However, a disappointing Liverpool performance and drop points for them means that the weekend was basically null and void. In this video, we're going to talk about the title, but more importantly, how Arsenal can recover from their recent form and try and find solutions for their injury problems. So let's get into it. Now, the last few weeks have been very interesting for Arsenal. While it definitely seems like the luck has been going against them with XG performance results and the amount of injuries piling up, they have actually been on quite decent form, not losing a game for over a month and being unbeaten in 12 now, winning most of them. However, despite winning most of them, the main issue has been the draws, and after the Brighton draw, I think them problems have fronted ahead again, while Arsenal overall looked quite disappointing throughout the game. Now, stats wise, it definitely wasn't the best game. Arsenal clearly struggled, I think, to create a lot of chances. However, they did have 5 big chances on the stats, and I do think there was at points that we had really good opportunities to win the game. And considering the starting lineup that Arsenal actually produced on the day, I mean, even looking at the Brighton's team, it looks a lot more better, especially with their bench players that they had on there. Obviously, illnesses to Havertz and Odegaard, who was dropped for this game because of that, forced us to play a midfield of Rice, Marino and Jorginho. Not enough creative work in there, and we could always expect that with that sort of team. Also, Partey being in right back now has 1 win in 5, and it's clearly not the great solution. Now, despite a lot of key players being out and realistically we weren't able to play how we wanted to, I do think there was options we had. We had people like Waneri, with Lewis Skelly, who could have played a lot more, and Zinchenko, who would have probably given us a little bit on the ball. However, it is what it is at the end of the day. We can't really be expected to compete against good sides like Brighton when we have this many problems, and especially when decisions like this go against us, then there's not much we can really do. Now, ultimately, I'm still not really sure where I stand on this boat. I think that it is probably not a penalty, and you don't see it very often. I think Saliba clearly gets a touch on the ball from this angle, but I think it's evident that they didn't even look at this angle, which yet again neglect. They don't even put their effort in to actually try and do it. I do think there has been more dubious situations of us getting the kind of rub of the green not in the right way, especially the red card we got against Brighton. I'm still a little bit annoyed about with Rice earlier in the season. Ultimately, anything below that is literally what it is at the end of the day, but in my opinion, that's not a penalty, but it's just another situation we have to take. Now, first of all, I want to look into some of the stats and maybe why some of the problems occurred. Obviously, that midfield was a big issue and we all know that. If you just look at the passes that we did in the half spaces, it just wasn't really enough. They're very safe, a lot of them. We actually created nothing from them and only made 1 key pass. And obviously, they're the sort of areas you want Odegaard or even Saka to work in. So it makes sense why that would happen. And I do think that you can't really put that down to the manager in certain ways or even the team. It is just what it is. We didn't have the players we needed in order to compete on the day, which is even more damning when you actually look at the positions that we had. Jesus was having to build up from deep a lot of the time, so he couldn't really get forward, and when Odegaard did, he actually tried to but didn't really receive the ball a lot. So it's just problems we have to sort out, and it just seems like our luck still isn't there. With after the game, obviously Waneri putting up with an injury, apparently he had to come off at half time because of it, and now that means that we have only really got 3 forward players that are actually fit, being Trossard, Martinelli and Jesus. 3 people that I think have all been quite annoying to watch in the last year in various points, and 3 players that really have struggled, and they're the only 3 fit is not exactly what you want. Now, what does this mean? Well, this means that we definitely need to sign someone in this transfer window. I think it is very neglectful if we do not even consider trying to sign someone, and I don't know, the reports of us trying to sign people were coming out with Kubo and even Matheus Cunha, but I'm not really that convinced that Arsenal want these players and will go in for them, which is a major concern. There's not really been many rumours in the last day or two, but nothing really is getting spoke about. Now, there's always the hope that Arsenal are doing something secretly, but I just don't really believe that. If we want a player, we could just go out and get them. Why wait? There's not any opportunities that are going to turn up in the next few weeks that haven't already been there. And the money that we spent in the summer, I think in hindsight you can say it was a poor window, and I think people like Marino and Calafiori are luxury players that do improve the team tactically, but when your key cornerstones of the team aren't there and there's a lot of disconnect between the midfield and defence with them always changing in the attack, then it's always going to cause problems. I'm not concerned about Marino and especially Calafiori that much, but if they're the players that can't be expected to lead the team, especially for the amount of money we spent on them anyway, you would expect that. And we've spoken about the players. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Kubo in the world, like I said the other day, and even Matheus Cunha, I'm not too sure if we need that sort of profile, but he can be versatile in an attacking midfield position and on a wing and up front, so that could definitely help. But why don't we just try and put ourselves out there to try and get some players? There's people like Semenyo, even in Buemo. Okay, it might be hard hard to get it from a Premier League team, but the players would definitely want to join if we went in there, so we just got to be brave. And I get that everyone kind of wants us to limit ourselves for the transfer window in the summer, but we can't wait on them sort of things. And I'm not expecting Arsenal to spend loads of money this window. I just want Arsenal to spend around £50 million on one player that could be a versatile option for the future. 3 attacking players is not enough anyway, considering we're always fighting on the Carabao Cup. You know, we're still in the FA Cup when that starts at the weekend, and we're in the Champions League. Now, maybe the league is not necessarily over with, but in a sort of back in the minds of the team, they're probably thinking it's going to be hard to bring that back. But we have seen Liverpool obviously been quite poor against United. And when you look at the away games that we have left to Liverpool, obviously there's a lot of circumstances in there. Even though Everton are lower, they're going to be a tough game. I mean, we've both got to play them. And even looking at some of the other games you've got to play, Wolves are getting better. United away is always a tough one. But Arsenal do have a lot of easier away games than Liverpool. Now that is because we've had a grueler start to the season. We've played nearly all the hardest teams away, and we've actually got the same amount of points as we had last season at this point, which is kind of crazy to think. Now, I'm not saying that Arsenal are going to guaranteedly come back against Liverpool, because I think it actually depends more on ourselves than Liverpool. I think Liverpool will slip, and I think we saw that. They should have lost to United. There's a lot of other games they should have dropped points in, and I definitely think there's a chance to catch up with them, but we need to be better. Now, I'm not going to hate on us too much for some of the results. I think the Brighton result, realistically, with that team out there, you know, a point will take, I guess. I mean, the penalty is a bit dodgy, but it is what it is. But games like Everton, we just had to be better in. Newcastle away, you know, these sort of games we've just been poor in sometimes this season. And I actually think Arsenal this season have been operating about a 6 out of 10. But with the injuries and the circumstances we've had, we've actually done quite well to get the points we have. And no matter, even if in the back of your head you're thinking the league season is over, Arsenal don't really have a chance, you know, we've got to rely on a lot of good results which are just not coming. The league's got better and the team has got worse in many aspects because of injuries. There is still a lot to play for this season. We've been insane in the Champions League. We've got 2 relatively easier games in order to get into that top bit of the top 8, and then we've got into the second knockout round already. You know, we've got an FA Cup tie next weekend against Man United, which is always going to be a game that we can win, and United look good, I think, against Liverpool, but there's going to be chances there. And we're in an EFL Cup semi-final against Newcastle. Now, I do think in the back of his head, he also didn't play the strongest team he probably could. Maybe Lewis Skelly, maybe even Odegaard wasn't risked from the start because of that game in the midweek. But we're going against a team of Newcastle who are a good side, and they need to be careful. They don't really have any notable injuries to their side other than maybe Nick Pope, but they've been out with him for a long time now, so that's fine. And we still just do not have players. Kai Havertz hopefully has recovered from his illness then, but who knows, it's still not been that much of a turnover. Hopefully Odegaard's feeling a bit better, but now when Neri's out, who's going to play right wing? We're going to have to play Martinelli and Trossard there again, which I just do not have the high hopes for. And I don't want to act like it's easy like a lot of people do. Man City wanted to buy some players and they've been completely pushed out of the way. I think for most of these players, they might still sign some of them, but it seems like it's harder than it looks. But I look at deals like this for Marlon from Aston Villa, 16 million euros. We could have put our name in that hat. Of course, Marlon isn't the best player in the world, Arsenal Academy, of course, but these are the sort of players that you can just buy who can rotate on both wings and play multiple roles. And if they're not great, then 16 mil, you can get your money back. It's not the end of the world given his age. But we just need to risk and take some of these worthwhile signings that are worth putting the team in. I'm not like everyone else. I don't think that we should need to sign this world-class player this January, because I just don't think that's going to happen. But there is good players out there that can help the squad, especially at the time of need, considering the injuries we have. And I think it is neglecting the fact that we are basically giving up this season when there's everything to play for, just to hopefully have a chance of getting the targets in the summer. But even then, that's not a great idea. I hate that sort of logic. Liverpool actually did this logic a few years ago when they wanted to sign Bellingham, they wanted to sign Cavaminga, and they wanted to sign Tuchemeni as well. Didn't get any of them, unfortunately, and it really screwed up, especially their defensive midfield recruitment for years, and they've never really been able to buy a defensive midfielder. They bought Endo, was a stopgap option, and Gravenberch was a central midfielder who they converted in there with Arne Slot, but Klopp did not like him as a defensive midfielder role, so they were struggling to sign in that area. And the reason why I'm so serious about this is because I see this on Twitter by people that are very credible sources within the industry and within the fan base, and it just makes me think that Arsenal are just kind of dropping the ball. Obviously, we don't know everything, and this is just speculation, but this doesn't exactly hold me up with any really confidence that we're going out there to get anyone. And that's all well and good. A lot of people have said that we don't want to ruin us trying to get Isak in the summer, which is fair enough, but I'm going to be honest, I do not think he is gettable. Top 5 places in the Premier League will probably get the Champions League football with the new system, and I think Newcastle are good enough easily to get into the top 5 in the Premier League League this year. I think you'll probably see Forest fade away and it'll be them, Chelsea, Man City, us and Liverpool. This causes a considerable problem for us because I just do not think Isak, unless you spend £150 million, is going to be able to come to Arsenal. And Arsenal aren't going to spend that money. We're going to probably spend cheaper amounts of money on other strikers, maybe such as Sesko or someone like that, who I think we should probably do anyway. And it just leaves us in a situation where we don't know what the club are doing. We didn't get much investment in the summer. You know, we were told that we can't spend that much or whatever. We're really good in FFP. We've got loads of money in the bank. So go out there and spend it. There is players out there. You just have to take a risk now and again. And I think the conservative approach of Arsenal in the last 2 years has been disappointing because they were more willing to take risks on players that they had and a belief in when we were developing. But now we're at this highest level, they don't want to take risks on anyone, which is causing us to, especially in attack, to very much dilate the creativity and the output of the team. We have the best defence, I believe, in the country and one of the best defences in Europe. So give them the attack that can compete with that level. We can't rely on the defence every single game to have incredible matches. And they do. The two centre-backs this season, Gabriel and Saliba, have been brilliant nearly all the time. And yet they still are conceding goals where they can't do anything about it, because that is how the quality of the Prem works with the amount of good attackers in the league. And the scary thing is I truly think Arsenal wouldn't have bought anyone at all if we didn't have injuries to people like Saka, maybe even Waneri now. But I'm still not necessarily guaranteed that we will do anything, which I think is the biggest worry. We just need to go out there and buy someone to help us compete. Maybe the league is over, maybe it's not. We know we could definitely still come back, but we're still in other competitions that we have the ability to win. And I think that is what we've got to look at. We can't just be giving up cup competitions like we have the last 3 years. This is time to kick on and we need to be better. So I will say, if Arsenal do not sign anyone this window, I am incredibly disappointed with the team and the club that they have failed to give us the right approach for the future. Now, with that being said, I know this video has been a bit negative, bit positive, depends how you look at it, but I just think that there's so much that Arsenal can achieve, and I think Arsenal have been so good this season, but everyone can just hold on to their negatives because they have been there so prominently. Overall, let me know in the comments what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next one.